Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 7:15, by at least one of the 3 clocks in this room, so we will make a start. Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet of Braintree District Council. We're not expecting any fire drills or anything this evening, but in the event of a fire, we will exit by the fire door there, which perhaps shouldn't have a table across it, it's just occurred to me, and also by that other entrance there if needs be, and we'll assemble in the car park. Right, without more ado, we will go on. Apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies? No apologies received, thank you. Declarations of interest. Are any declarations of interest any members wish to make? I'll start with Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council who are likely to be referred to in various items on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mrs Pell.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Just like to say that I am a member of Halstead Community Centre Charitable Company. That's regarding item 6A.
So yours is a non-pecuniary interest, Councillor Cunningham. Is yours a non-pecuniary? Right, thank you. I similarly will declare an MPI as also a member of Essex County Council. Any other declarations of interest? No? Right, thank you. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of November, which it was only last week. They will be dealt with at the next meeting of Cabinet, okay? Public question time. There are no members of the public who wish to put any questions, so we will move on to item 5, the overall strategy. Item 5A, the IDP and Capital Programme Board. This paper is on page 12 of your agenda. Sorry, that's the appendix. Let me just go back. It is on page 6 of your agenda. Members of the Cabinet will know, because we had a full discussion on this, but for other members and people watching, we have had an Investment and Development Programme Board, which was established some time ago to oversee some of the main issues of the Capital Programme Board. I think it's fair to say that over the last couple of years, we have had significant large items which we've dealt with, but as part of that, we've also learnt things as to how best we can project manage, etc. And as a result, we have looked at whether the way we had set ourselves up was in fact the best way of doing it. We were helped, Suzanne with us. Suzanne, grateful to Suzanne, one of our new executive members who has experience in this area as well, who came up and we had discussions as to how we might take this forward. And our view was that it would be better to separate the 2 items and have a capital programme board as well as the IDP, and also to have separate membership of those 2 boards. So if you like, there's a cross-check and it wasn't the same people reviewing their own thing. So there would be greater challenge, etc. The actual roles are set out, of the 2 boards, are set out in Appendix A and Appendix B. It's something clearly we will keep under review as we go forward. But our view is that this would be a good way to move and to ensure, as we deal with capital programmes in the future, that we will do it this way. So Cabinet's asked to note that the terms of reference of the 2 boards and also the membership, which is detailed there. The IDP will be chaired by Councillor Cunningham and the Capital Programme Board by Councillor Ritchie. Are there any comments or questions from anyone? Councillor Mann.
It seems to me anyway, Chair, it's a suitable, acceptable and transparent model to work from, and I think it's particularly useful that you've split the membership, not duplicated, so there is, as you say, the opportunity for cross-checking if that is necessary.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Mann. Any other comments at all? Anyone wants to add? No? You're happy then to accept the recommendations as set out in paragraph 2? Agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Let's go to item 6 on the agenda, which is, I'm going to have to get it up slightly. Halstead Community Grants Fund, which is on page 14, and for that we go to Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman. This report sets out a proposed capital grant scheme for the benefit of the Halstead community. Members will recall that in 2010 the Council approved an allocation of £800,000 as a contribution toward a community centre in Halstead. Alongside this, Section 106 monies were also allocated. Unfortunately, for various reasons, this project has not come forward and the fund has now been held in abeyance for over 11 years. There has, however, been a partial allocation of the £800,000 to various initiatives in the Halstead area, totaling approximately £163,000. On the 1st of April 2022, the mechanism for the allocation of this funding has been amended with a view to opening up the funds to other projects that could benefit the Halstead community through the development of a capital asset. This report proposes the launch of a capital fund in January 2023, which would open to all voluntary community sector groups to apply. Grants would be available for a minimum of £10,000 and would have to meet the test of creating and improving an asset that will provide service benefit for more than 1 year. All submissions will be required to provide a business case, and an application form will be assessed by the communities team through due diligence and a scoring criteria, with the final decision made by myself as Cabinet Member for Communities and in consultation with the leader of the Council. Thank you, Chairman. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Any comments or questions? Councillor Mrs Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure you anticipated me asking that one. You did. I'm a little bit confused about the report. It doesn't say exactly if you're intending to give away the whole of that £600,000. But we were told, and I'm speaking now as the charitable company, told to talk to the Town Council. That we are doing, and we are in the process of doing that, and we have reached a commercially sensitive stage, which we hope will become clearer in the next couple of weeks, with Christmas in the middle, obviously. And I understand that what you're going to decide tonight will be decided here at Cabinet and not go through full council, which will give my colleagues and myself the opportunity to have a vote on this. I think, and I'm making a plea to you, if we could have another 6 months, we know we've had a long time, but reaching the stage where we are now, it's either going to go ahead or it won't. And what do people in Halstead want? They want a community centre. And I find by doing the grant scheme that you're talking about, it's just diluting what there is and spreading it around and not giving us what it is that we need, which is a community. I mean, we don't even have in one ward anywhere to go and vote, only in a porter cabin. You know, so there's lots of things why we want this. And we need help too, as I've said to you before. We need help from Braintree. Whittam have had it, and now what they're having 2-3 million as well for it. We need help to progress to the next stage to make this happen. And I want to see this happen in my lifetime. I'm getting older. So I really do make that plea to you that would you consider, given this decision, another 6 months before you implement it? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman. The opening up of this funding does not preclude the Halstead Community Centre Trust from applying for part or all of those funds. I think the criteria is fairly clear in as much as if we see a viable business case coming forward, then there's nothing to stop us from allocating, like I said, all or part of that funds towards that. I think the point that we were at as a council is that after 11 years, we really want to see something coming forward for the community of Halstead. It's not going to be spent anywhere else. It is for the area in Halstead. But we feel it's at that point where we need to give other community groups a chance to bring something forward. And you are more than welcome, as the Halstead Town Community Centre Trust, to bid for that funding. It will not be as a preclusion to your trust. Thank you, Chairman.
You want to come back?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I still feel that we need help, and that is what I've said to you before. In this room, we need practical, physical help. We are a small band of people. We are not experts, but trying hard. What we're trying to do now with the Town Council, I'm hoping it is going to go forward, because that is what we want. That's our ambition for the town. What people are saying on Facebook and so other social media, they keep saying, when is it coming? We all know what it is that's held it up. It is the contamination, purely the contamination. But we are, fingers crossed, hoping that we might have a solution. And it is honest, and I will come back to you and let you know more. But we really could do with some physical help. Thank you.
What I would say is, I seem to have lived with this all the time I've been on this council. I recall the first meeting which you and I were present with Alan Reid as the then chief executive, and I think you're the fourth one since then. And even more recently, our previous chief exec, Andy Wright, and myself met with the two members of Halstead Town Council, both of whom were also members of this authority, and the clerk, again to say, look, we cannot keep hanging on to this money. I think what you heard, and I appreciate, how much you feel. I have my view about the generosity of the land that was donated. I have a very strong view on how generous a donation that was, given the huge amount of contamination that is there. However, I do appreciate your commitment to that. And as you've heard Councillor Ritchie say, there is nothing to stop that happening. But we can't go on. Can we have another 6 months? We've had, in total, something like 132 months since this whole project started. But, if you feel that you are in a position, maybe on a confidential basis, to share the basis of a business plan, which we can look at and see whether it has some legs, then I'm sure Councillor Ritchie will give it consideration.
I have a meeting tomorrow.
Great. Well, Councillor Ritchie, I'm sure, will be delighted, as soon as you're in a position, and I'm not sure who the you is, because I don't think it's you personally, whether it's going to be the town council. The town council clearly could be a major player in this, if that's the view of the town council. I just want to pick you up on one thing about Whittam's got 2 or 3 million. Whittam did have the whole of the Maltings estate as a price to pay, some might say, for the I'm going to say 1.2, but it might be 1.8. What was it, Councillor Ritchie? 1.8 million Section 106 agreement to go there. I think it's fair to say, I don't watch every planning committee, but I've watched a good few, that when there have been proposals for Halstead, they haven't necessarily been enthusiastically welcomed. And I think one just has to make the connection. So I wouldn't want you to think that money was given to Whittam, which wouldn't be given to Halstead. It was a Section 106 agreement. It was a significant amount, and I can't recall exactly the number of houses at Maltings Lane, but I think it's into 4 figures perhaps in total. So, we're not trying to do Halstead down, and we would love, and we've hung on to this money from when your predecessor, Councillor Gage, was the leader of the HRA, and we've kept our word on it, but we've got to do something. Times are tight all round, and to sit on, £600,000, which could be used for something, which may be what you're going to propose. So if I can encourage you and your colleagues and the town council, or whoever it is, to really put your foot on the accelerator and come forward. And we're happy to have discussions on an informal, private way about what you're planning to do, and then I'll leave it to Councillor Ritchie to decide whether that's sufficient reassurance to go forward. Okay? Right, we'll move on. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mann, I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, minimum of 10,000, available to all properly constituted sort of voluntary groups, dependent on business case. Just to confirm, there's no aspect of match funding in here. Is that true? You're not anticipating that people coming forward with a bid will need any match funding?
That's correct. So you could come forward with a zero balance and ask for £10,000 towards a community initiative in Housestead.
Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, are you happy to accept the 3 recommendations as set out in the report in paragraph 2? Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Move on to item 7, finance and corporate transformation, and 7A, the digital strategy at page 17. Can I remind members that the full strategy was actually sent out fairly recently to you? But without more ado, can I ask Councillor McKee to introduce the item, please?
Thank you, Chairman. It's on page 17, by the way. In March 2020, when the initial COVID restrictions were put into place, digital technology was vital to the Council's ability to continue operating and offering its services, running in relation to communicating and working with members, staff, partners and customers. This required us to completely reprioritise our programme of work in the then current digital strategy. We very quickly enabled our workforce and members to be able to work remotely and enter the world of virtual meetings, which until that time had not been required widely across the organisation. However, without a plan driven by a strategy, that would not have been possible. As with the rest of the country, our district also relied heavily on technology to keep working and communicating, supporting our residents and businesses to access and use digital technology and became an even greater priority. Increased reliance on technology means that we need to continue to develop our resilience and ensure that we protect our systems from cyber security threats. We also need to take a role in promoting cyber security across the district to help everyone to have the confidence in use of technology safely. The strategy sets out how we will meet those challenges and makes the best use of technology to deliver better outcomes. In this strategy, you will see that we are continuing with themes that reflect the different areas in which our strategy needs to focus: digital council, digital customer and digital place. There's a slight different emphasis in digital place from the way we were in the original strategy. It's more widely focused now than it was before. There are several priorities in our previous strategy which are still relevant to the new digital landscape. These have been updated to even more innovative and ambitious to reflect the current and predicted future need. We will continue to build on the digital platform already in place, extending the capability created over the last 5 years, continuing to increase our efficiency and productivity through better use of technology. The strategy also ensures that we continue to develop and promote our digital services to customers, for example, online booking and payments for BDC services, on-demand reporting and personalised services. We will also continue to develop our role to support our communities and businesses to develop digital capability with improved infrastructure skills and access to help our businesses make the very best use of technology to improve prosperity and our communities to feel more connected. I'll take any questions before you make the recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor McKee. Any comments or questions at all? Councillor Tashley.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I always look at initiatives like this and ask the question whether my mother would be able to continue accessing BDC services through this kind of scheme. But I think that, from what John said, I think there's enough in here that it looks to me as we're going to run the two systems side by side in many ways. Basically, an internet-based system, but also an ability for people who aren't able to access it in slightly other ways, with a gradual fading out of the other ways, if that makes sense, as people get older and people get more savvy. But I do worry very often about people that do, I mean, where I live, the internet connection is not good. We've got a lot of people, and I think sometimes the drive for advanced technology is just escaping some of them.
Councillor McKee, you wish to come back?
I accept that some people will find the internet connection more difficult, but this isn't just about the internet. It's also about our phone communications and how they are routed in the organisation to have a better access from telephones through a switching system that will go direct to the correct individual. Also, single sign-on is another part of the development, which means it's much easier for people who are using those internet services to come through without necessarily putting all the details all the time, and therefore they're recognised when they contact the system. So the interfaces will get simpler for people using this sort of technology.
Thank you. Councillor Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Chairman. As a well-known Luddite when it comes to digital technology, I received the report with some trepidation, and I actually found it a really good read. And because someone like me could read it and understand it, I really want to congratulate Councillor McKee and the officers, because it is an extremely good paper.
Councillor McKee.
I won't take the credit for it, actually. I think the credit sits with Paul, who wrote the document with some support, of course, from other technology guys around him. And it is a good read, and it's very simple, and you can understand what we are planning to do. You don't have a roadmap necessarily, but you can see in this year's MTFS, there's whole chunks of technology which, if you read between the lines, is delivering some of what's in the paper. So it's a piece by piece delivery. It's not a big bang theory, but it is a very easy to understand document. And Paul actually takes the credit for the authorship of it.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? If not, you're happy to agree the digital strategy 22-26 as set out in Appendix A? Agreed? Thank you. That takes us on to item 7B, second quarter performance report. Again, Councillor McKee.
Thank you, Chairman. This is another good report, actually. Seems to be when I deliver these quarterly reports, they seem to be all positive, so maybe it's a good job I'm reading them. Right. This report sets out the Council's progress towards our corporate priorities as at the end of the second quarter, September 2022. At the end of September 2022, 17 projects are complete, 43 are on track and progressing well, and 4 projects have an amber status. They are: facilitate the delivery of purpose-built medical centre in Sybil Henningham. This is amber due to the land transfer being delayed. Create a garden of remembrance at Bocking Cemetery. This is amber due to the original contractor withdrawing from the project. A new tender was published in August, and the Council are exploring the option of using Section 106 contributions. Develop the Whittam Enterprise Centre, providing a small industrial units for start-up companies and SMEs. This is amber due to the planning pre-app identifying a number of planning constraints, and therefore the scheme design is being reviewed. And last but not least, ensure residents have access to the skills programmes and education they need to access employment opportunities, including in new and expanding sectors. This is amber as the Council is currently waiting on the outcome of its submission to the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is expected in the autumn, to better understand how this will be utilised for skills and education before creating a skills plan. 9 performance indicators have achieved or exceeded their target. 1 performance indicator has missed target by less than 5%. 3 performance indicators have missed their target by more than 5%. Key achievements in the second quarter. Victoria Square development is now complete, and a ceremony was held with partners to mark and celebrate the completion of the build, which comprises a 70-bed Travelodge, 35 new homes, a Live Well hub, pharmacy, restaurant, new bus interchange, public toilets, car park and garden area to complement Braintree's historic town hall. I think a project that many people around this table have been associated with, and I think one we can be rightly proud. A new Love Essex campaign was launched to highlight the fixed penalty fines for anyone caught throwing litter from their vehicle, the slogan being, "It's for driving on, not littering on." Volunteer awards took place in August at the iConstruct Innovation Hub. The annual awards are now in their 6th year and continue to successfully recognise and reward individuals and groups who make a positive difference to their community and in inspiring others. Kelvedon Neighbourhood Plan was formally adopted at full council in July, bringing the number of neighbourhood plans to 6, with 8 others being progressed. a neighbourhood area for Whittam was also approved in September. 644 children and young people were supported during the school holidays with activities and a nutritious meal through the Active 8 clubs organised by Active Essex and Community 360. The plaza opened in July 2022, providing private offices a co-working space with desks for individuals as well as businesses, shared meeting rooms, seminar rooms, conference and event spaces and a cafe area. The Customer Service Excellence Assessment took place in September, and the Council has been successful in retaining the accreditation for the 7th year in a row. 70 affordable homes were delivered in the second quarter of the year, bringing the total for the year to 160. The Housing Service also prevented 61 cases of homelessness in the second quarter through various interventions. In the second quarter, 67 businesses contacted us for business support, and we saw 234 new businesses start-ups across the district. We resolved 73% of calls that come into our customer service centre at the first point of contact, and performance has been turned around in respect of the time taken to process housing benefit claims. This was at amber last quarter at 10.93, and the hard work of the team has brought this to a well within target averaging 4.45 days at the end of the second quarter. There is also an additional section including in the report under Enhancing Our Environment section, providing an update on the progress of numerous actions by theme within our climate change strategy. The finance section, finance performance, I'll turn to now. The finance section of the report provides an updated review of the financial position for the quarter, examining the latest forecasts of spending on day-to-day service revision compared to the budget. Also included is a summary of Treasury management activities, projected movements on the general fund balance, and a summary of spending to date on capital projects. The financial position at the end of quarter two is as follows. The outturn for the year at Q2 is a positive variance of £126,000. This compares to an adverse variance projected at Q1 of £721,000, which triggered implementation of a recovery plan that required all managers to review their service areas to identify opportunities for increased income, savings and deferral of expenditure wherever possible. The recovery plans, which generated a net £589,000, was the main factor in the improvement now reported at Q2. Other changes include downward revision of the estimated impact of the National Employers Pay Offer for 2022 of £47,000. Further net improvements of £211,000 across services has been projected, the main changes being increase in investment income, £125,000, and a higher level of incentive reward under the council tax sharing agreement of £110,000. The updated projections will be reviewed to ensure that any ongoing items, if not already, are reflected in the 23-24 budget planning proposals. The projected change in a general fund allocated balance is currently a net addition of £536,000, giving an estimated balance at 31st of March 2023 of £6.6 million. Actual spend on capital programme was £4.6 million, of which 2.9 was the plaza, with a 0.6 on the Manor Street regeneration programme. I'll take questions there and allow you to make the recommendation to Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor McKee. Any comments or questions at all? Councillor Mann.
This is always a good report because of the depth of the information that's provided in its comprehensive sort of nature. Just one point, I noticed in the quarter we just slipped under the target for sort of dealing with complaints, and an explanation was given that this is probably driven by pressure over planning complaints in particular. And I take it this is people complaining about sort of the length of time their application is under consideration. So I ask again, are we sort of properly resourcing this side of our operation?
Councillor Mrs. Spray, you want to take that?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Mann. I can always depend on you to find a question to ask me, and it's a good question. I had a discussion with Chris Padgey very recently about the complaints. There have been a number which have been more complex, perhaps, than normal, which are taking a bit longer to resolve. But there is certainly capacity within the team to deal with the complaints. They are getting on top of them. There have just been, I say, a cluster of some which are particularly tricky and have taken a little longer. But I think you can be assured that the team are dealing with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mann. Any other comments or questions at all? No? Okay, happy to accept the recommendation in 2.1 to note the performance of the Council for the second quarter. Agreed. And I think also to ask the Chief Executive to convey to staff another excellent quarter. Thank you very much indeed to all concerned. Thank you. Right, let us move on to item 8, economic growth, and item 8A, the economic growth strategy 2023 to 2028, and this will be introduced by Councillor Cunningham.
Very pleased. Sorry, I'll just have the microphone on. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Very pleased that the refresh of the economic strategy is coming to Cabinet this evening, and I'm delighted to introduce it on behalf of the economic growth portfolio and my other colleagues who work on this wider agenda. When we brought the predecessor of this document, the Plan for Growth, some years ago, little did we know we would have such an unexpected social and economic event as the pandemic. Back then, we were assuming Brexit would take place, but were unsure what form it would take place in, nor could we have predicted a war close to home. This refreshed document is an extremely thorough strategy, considering the needs and challenges of the Braintree district economically post-pandemic. And I'm very grateful for all the work that has gone into this, both internally and externally, and especially to our officer, Danielle Estella, who has worked with our consultants and brought the paper together. I'm also very grateful for member input and for our excellent stakeholders in the local business community and our first-class education providers who brought their own tremendous insight into this document. Our corporate objective of a prosperous district that attracts business growth and provides high-quality employment opportunities is reaffirmed and supported by the objectives of this strategy, focusing on key work streams. 1, infrastructure and connectivity. 2, the resilient business support. 3, inclusive people and skills. And 4, sustainable green economy. This strategy will be delivered in partnership and with commissioning direct from Braintree District Council. Funding for the economic development function is being discussed as part of the emerging budget process for 23-24 and beyond. But it is the intention of this administration that this won't be a strategy that sits on a shelf. It will have an action plan resourced, ready to deliver. Mr. Chairman, I've been extremely fortunate to be involved with the economic strategy of this authority for 8 weeks as of next week, working with other political colleagues and some tremendous officers over that time. It's a great pleasure to see and hear the public's perception and the business community's praise of Braintree District Council when it comes to matters relating to the economy and business. With Cabinet agreement tonight and the start of a consultation period, the administration will pave the way for the next chapter of Braintree District Council's excellent economic development story, and with it the hope that any incoming administration will continue in the same vein, as we all realise as we come out of these difficult times that a prosperous community means a healthier and happier community, and all elements must be interlinked. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Are there any comments or questions at all? Councillor Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to make a couple of comments as part of, obviously, skills. I represent skills as a Cabinet member, and just as Councillor Cunningham has mentioned, we've worked very closely, not just me, but I know other members, not just in the connecting people, places and prosperity, but also supporting our communities, areas of the council in regards the input into the strategy. And I just wanted to make a sort of a bit of a focus onto the point in the vision and key priorities, the inclusive people and skills part. Just like to make some compliment in regards to the input on the green skills and the enhanced digital skills part, and also There is obviously the ever-changing workplace and workforce landscape, and this strategy sort of proves how we move with that. And also, I'd like to pay sort of tribute to the reference to iConstruct and how we can use that going forward. And also, from a housing perspective, the working with the social housing providers and house builders to mitigate the inputs of housing need with a negative trajectory. So I'd like to make those comments from my portfolio, how that's been reflected within the document, which I think is an excellent document. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Do you want to say anything, Councillor Bowers?
No, I think that's absolutely right. I agree totally with Councillor Bowers. We've always had a good record in terms of supporting skills. I have to say it did go on the back burner slightly during the peak of the COVID pandemic, when the overwhelming focus of the function was to work with finance officers to dispatch business grants, which we did very successfully. But Councillor Bowers quite rightly signposts iConstruct. That was no feat enabling that to happen. The current phase of the business support ends in the first quarter of next year, and we're discussing with Essex County Council and other agencies how that business support to the construction industry can continue. But I don't think it's an accident that you are starting to see that coalescence of manufacturing, advanced manufacturing and the construction industry businesses starting to come together in the wider Braintree area. It was great to see one of the first buildings that went up on Horizon 120, the Western Homes affiliate, whose name escapes me at the moment, British Offsite, sorry, yes. Built a purpose-built site there to bring forward demountable and modern methods of construction houses. That was a real sign that we're actually been able to help support our local residents in well-paid, well-skilled jobs, which is what we're trying to do. And of course, not only did iConstruct help provide support in that sector, it also helped with our capital investment enable a really first-class addition, first-class asset to our Braintree Enterprise Centre site. So, as Councillor Bowers says, now the focus is on the next stage, and hopefully with adoption of this strategy and that action plan that can really support it, we can, in a few years' time, we can demonstrate some more worthwhile interventions in the area of skills.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions at all? Councillor Van Dolken.
I'd just like to say that I found it a very good read. I think somebody said that before. No, more than that. It's very, very good report. I really congratulate everyone involved in this. I think it's going to be extremely useful in the future, and indeed highlights those, well, the three in particular, the iConstruct, the Plaza, and indeed Horizon 120 generally, that what this authority has done, I think, for its size, is really very, very commendable.
Thank you, Councillor Van Dolken. Any other comments or questions? If not, are you happy to approve the draft Economic Growth Strategy 23 to 28? Agreed? Thank you. Right, that takes us on to item 9. Both these items have confidential appendices. As usual, I would hope we can do as much as possible in open session. If anybody does want to refer specifically to something in the confidential appendices, then we will obviously have to move into private session. Is anyone aware that they will want to make specific reference, or are we happy to deal with the paper as in public? Right, okay. Then in that case, I think we will move on that premise that we will deal with it entirely in public. So item 9A, Horizon 120 option agreement, and this will be Councillor Bowers. Councillor Bowers, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Cabinet will be fully aware of the Horizon 120 Business, Innovation and Logistics Park in Great Notley being a site acquired by the Council in 2018. With the lack of any prospect of the site being brought forward for development by the private sector, the Council decided to acquire the Horizon 120 site and bring it forward for development itself. In completing the purchase, the Council also gained the benefit of a pre-emption agreement to purchase the separate 26.5 acre plot of land of the southwest of the Horizon 120 site, should it wish to do so, as detailed in the report tonight. In June 2020, the pre-emption agreement was replaced by an option agreement between the council and the landowner. The new option agreement gave the council the right to purchase the additional 26.5 acre plot for a period of 15 years from the date of the agreement, provided that the council sought and secured planning permission for commercial development and brought that development forward. The option agreement included the normal provision for the purchaser to recover costs and to purchase at a discount to market value. Horizon 120 has very much been a success story for this council, seeing the site being 70% developed within 4 years of acquisition. The response to the continued marketing campaign for Horizon 120, being led by Horizon Braintree Limited, is demonstrating continued demand for new commercial buildings of the type currently being offered at the Horizon 120 site, and illustrates the opportunity, therefore, to further enhance employment opportunities in the district through continued and new development in the area. Whilst the development of the Horizon 120 site has been successful at delivering considerable employment, land and jobs within the district, the council has been determined that it's not currently the council has determined that it's not currently in the same financial position to progress with the development of the land under the option agreement as it was for the main site in 2018. The financial position is unlikely to change in the current and future MTFS periods. The council has therefore considered the options to deliver against its commitment in its option agreement to bring forward the 26.5 acre site in a way that sees the land developed a little or at no financial cost to the council. The council has also considered how it could also secure a financial return for its option agreement in support of delivering a balanced MTFS for the council. Given that HBL has delivered so strongly against the original ambition of Horizon 120, it was considered practical to explore whether HBL would be willing to seek the transfer of the options agreement in order that it might bring the land forward for development. In order to ensure best value for the council commissioned its asset valuers, NPS, to test the validity of such an arrangement and whether it would offer the council the best value against other options. As described in the report, several potential options have been carefully considered, and officers have sought advice from NPS, the council's asset valuation practice, on the efficacy and best value considerations of transferring the option agreement to HBL. Their resulting recommendation offered comfort that the transfer of the option agreement to HBL, founded on open market valuations, would offer the best value to the council. Therefore, I am seeking Cabinet approval to the recommendations as set out on page 80 of the report. The recommendations are: Cabinet agrees that the council enter into an interim exclusivity agreement of 12 months with Horizon Braintree Limited to consider an agreement to assign its option agreement to HBL. Also, subject to satisfactory terms being agreed and satisfactory due diligence being completed with HBL regarding the assignment of the council's option agreement, Cabinet agrees to the assignment of the option agreement on the current terms to HBL, and Cabinet agrees to delegate authority to the Corporate Director for Growth, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Housing Assets and Skills and the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Transformation, to finalise the terms of the exclusivity agreement and to enter into any subsequent deed of assignment with a contract with HBL. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Any comments or questions from anyone? Councillor McKee.
Thank you, Chairman. I think under the current financial situation, this is absolutely the best option for the council. It brings it forward with minimum or zero risk, which clearly, if we were to go about the way we have on the first phase of this project, we would incur significant capital expenditure and significant potential risk. So I think actually it's an innovative way of us extracting land value effectively with minimum risk, and I absolutely support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Cunningham and then Councillor Van Dolken.
Yes, thank you very much. I totally support the recommendation that's come forward to Cabinet this evening. Councillor Bowers quite rightly said we looked at a number of opportunities, a number of options on how to take this forward. And Councillor McKee quite rightly alluded to the initial capital outlay that would be required to do that ourselves. Again, I think we have to appreciate it was no mean feat taking on the first 65 acres that when we made the acquisition 4 years ago about now, I think actually it was in the last few months of the last
December
administration, wasn't it? Absolutely. And to bring that forward during a pandemic and to still receive the interest from the business community, and to see, how, particularly in the last, I would say, 6 months, how the site has made that great switch from a a highly active construction site to a place where there's still construction work going on and still plenty more to do there and plenty more units to pop up, which is very exciting, but actually a place of work to see how the LDO has enabled that high quality of design and working environment, the planting, the signs, everything come together. It's a huge achievement. But obviously we're focusing on this second stage, and I think this is the perfect compromise of not exposing this council in volatile economic times to too much risk, to risking exposure to risk, but also maintaining some of the fidelity to those wider economic ambitions we always had for the first stage of the site, and we hope will be repeated. So I think it's the best compromise and the best solution for all. I think we should be pleased with the outcome at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Van Dalken.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I'm right in saying that the intention is that this 26.5 acres will be or should be developed in the same manner as the first part in terms of the LDO and the type of business that would be there. Could I just have some confirmation on that?
Councillor Bowers.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Van Dalken. I think why I don't believe it will actually be covered by the LDO. Obviously, we would like to continue what we've got there in regards how the site looks now the site is built out. So that is the premise that we and the developers, I'm sure, will be working to. So I hope I can give you that comfort. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chair. I think the aim will still be to try and attract high order activity rather than warehousing. I think that's been a theme throughout. I agree. The context has changed completely. The first stage very successfully sort of accomplished, but the parameters are so different now. I think this is a sensible way forward that sort of reduces the risk to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Chairman. From the environment side, I can only say how amazing the first part has been. We had naysayers who think that any kind of development is always detrimental to the environment. In this case, a barren field has been turned into basically a nature wonderland as well as a workplace. And it just goes to show that with the council in control of sites, that we can do both jobs and helping the environment successfully. And I sincerely hope, and I'm sure it will, that this second phase will continue this extremely important work, jobs plus the environment. And I congratulate all those who have been involved in it.
Thank you, Councillor Schmidt. Any other comments at all? Councillor Tattersley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I must confess there are bits of this report that I can't understand, but I suspect it's my limitations rather than any limitations that's been built into it. But just to be clear, that this 26.5 acre site, the current landowner, does he still retain an interest in that, and could he withdraw the offer to sell it, or is it now in our ownership, or is it still subject to negotiations?
And my understanding, Councillor Tattersley, is it's not so much as in our ownership, but we have that option agreement, so that there's no sort of reneging on that option agreement because it's in place, and that's basically what we're looking to what we're going to do with it tonight, and also the recommendation is but interim exclusivity agreement. So that's basically what we're looking at tonight. So it's not kind of a done deal, as it were. But in regards what you're asking, there's no issue with that because that's what the option agreement that we've come to the agreement over time as detailed in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I just want to say one thing. I noticed even this week there are some people on social media trying to suggest that this is investment only in Braintree or indeed only in Great Notley for the people of Great Notley, and there are 3 ward members of Great Notley. I want to say two things. One is being for the benefit of the whole district. And there are people working on there who come from not only across the whole district, but indeed from outside. It's an employment opportunity for North Essex generally, right here in Braintree. And I want to put that quite clearly on the record. And to the people of Great Notley, I actually want to say a huge thank you, because they had an empty field. And suddenly now there is, I think, a high quality, undoubtedly a high quality development there. But it's not the same as an open field, and I think they have accepted that extremely well, and also to the parish council. I declare I'm a member of the parish council, for the way in which they have been supportive of it. And I only wish that in some other areas, people who claim that they want to see developments like this would adopt it in the same way. That's all I'm going to say on that particular issue. Right, there are 3 recommendations before us, which will also include, if you accept them, the acceptance of the confidential appendix. So are you happy to accept the recommendations as shown on page 80? Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed. Right, we'll move on to item 8B. 9B, sorry. On the agenda, which again has a confidential appendix. This is the grant of an easement at Springwood Drive, Braintree. Is there anyone who will want to make any reference to the confidential appendix? If not, we'll treat it in the same way as we did the last item. No? Right. Okay, so item 9B, Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman. This report before members tonight is regarding council-owned land on the Springwood Drive industrial estate in Braintree. The council has been approached by a developer who have an option over the land to the rear of the council's land at this location. That land has potential, subject to planning, for development for employment purposes, incorporating industrial and warehouse units. However, in order to facilitate such development, the developer requires access to the site across the council's land. Terms have been agreed with the developer, subject to contract and formal council approval, for access to be granted by way of an easement in return for a cash payment to a value commensurate with the identified land of the benefit being granted. As detailed in the report, the new access route will be constructed at the developer's cost, and arrangements will be made for the cost of future maintenance and repairs to it to be shared between the occupiers of the newly developed units and the council in fair proportion. Whilst precise costs are not possible to forecast at this time, the standard of road delay should be suitable for a minimum of 10 years wear and tear in anticipation of future maintenance thereafter. Cost to the council will represent a small percentage in comparison to the traffic serving the new industrial park, extending to an estimated 16 acres. Hence, it is not anticipated that a capital budget will be necessary to meet such expenses. In considering the options, it wouldn't make sense for the council if we were to do nothing in this situation, as the opportunity for the added employment land would be unlikely to come to fruition, as there are no other realistic options for access to the land at the rear of the council's land. This would therefore deny the opportunity to attract more employees to the district, with the resultant lack of further employment prospects, business rates, revenues and economic growth. Also, the council would not benefit from any payment. The recommended option is that the council could accept a cash payment in exchange for this access. The advantage of this solution compared to other options is that it's a straightforward payment in exchange for the granting of an easement. It would be conditional upon the grant of planning consent for the developer's scheme, but would become payable immediately, such consent being formalised. By accepting a cash payment, the council will have full control over the way it wishes to future invest that money. Therefore, I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 89 of tonight's report, which are to approve the grant of an easement across the council's land in favour of Charterhouse Property Group to enable them to develop new industrial warehouse units on the land to the rear, to authorise the entering into such contractual agreements necessary for the granting of the easement and bringing into effect any necessary changes to those leases already in existence, and to effect the transfer of the additional land to the council, and to agree that the council accepts the freehold transfer of the additional land together with a transaction fee in the sum set out in the confidential appendix. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowers, any comments or questions at all on this? Councillor Tattersley?
Yeah, thank you again. I mean, I fully support this. The more of this site that can be, this valuable site that can be opened up and used, the better. My only proviso would, in agreeing to extra businesses on this site, the access in and out of the site is still woeful, and I hope that any plans that you've got for this will actually recognise that fact, so that people working on there can actually get in and out of the site without the half-hour queue that they've got to suffer every night.
Thank you, Councillor Tattersley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, anything like that, Councillor Tattersby, would obviously be considered when planning permission is sought after. So all that would come under that. So hopefully the situation that may be there at the moment or may be ongoing due to further development will be part of that consideration. Thank you.
Any other comments, Councillor Cunningham?
Just to say, Mr. Chairman, totally support the recommendation this evening, but Councillor Tattersley makes a very good point about Springwood Industrial Estate and the limitations of getting it on and off at certain times of the day. Unfortunately, the solution to that is clear, and that is the opening of the link road through to the top as part of the new development, but it is dependent upon developers honouring their agreements and building required houses to unlock the funding for the link road. And unfortunately, the council's hands are tied, but perhaps more frustratingly, the businesses on that site who are frustrated, and some businesses have chosen to move off because of the limitations of Springwood, are being frustrated by that developer. And it's a great shame. Unfortunately, it sometimes shows the frailty, shall we say, of the planning system, maybe.
Let us hope that the announcement by the Secretary of State today dealing with recalcitrant developers who don't develop is something which is supported by Parliament, and if it can be applied retrospectively, we will be one of the first authorities in the queue to exercise it and let that be heard by the developer concerned. Councillor Bowers.
Yeah, I'd just like to wholeheartedly agree with the comments from Councillor Cunningham. My answer to Councillor Tatter's question was more about the site itself, but we all know that there's a wider issue with the wider area of the Springwood Drive Industrial Estate, and I completely concur with those comments. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions at all? If not, are you happy to accept the 3 recommendations in the report, and in doing that also accepting the confidential appendix regarding this item? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Right, that brings us to the end of tonight's agenda. We don't need to go into private session, having cleared both the confidential appendix, and therefore I will declare the meeting closed at 8:12. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance. Thank you.